Hello, I'm Thomas Carruthers.
And I'm Jay Reeve.
And today we continue our foray into Lynch with our first entry in his, I don't know whether it is self-titled. Does he call it the LA Trilogy? Or is that something critics and fans call it?
It's probably critics and fans. I'll have to check, but I kind of doubt that he labeled it.
So this is the LA Trilogy, which, beyond all being set in LA, also feature themes of dual identity, more so in the first two. Inland Empire, I will get to when we get to. And yeah. This is the first of those, and this is Lost Highway.
We've met before, haven't we?
I don't think so.
At your house, don't you remember?
No, I don't.
As a matter of fact, I'm there right now.
That's crazy, man.
Call me.
I like that.
I think there's no such thing as a bad coincidence.
I like to remember things my own way, not necessarily the way they happened.
Someone broke in and taped us while we slept.
Is that you? Or both of them you?
We have to get out of here.
Why didn't you tell me anything?
It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Whereas the next entry, Mulholland Drive, works on is the duality of a woman in the Hollywood system, or so, as we'll explore. For me, this really is the duality of man and the, and some might say the inherently violent traits rooted, lustful, violent traits rooted in the male psyche through years and years of society, because we do live in a society.
If I ever found out somebody was making out with her,
He'll kill us.
I told you I was here.
How'd you do that?
Ask me.
This is
by the time that we're recording this episode, we haven't seen, and I never will. We don't have HBO Max in England, but I just don't know if there's a world where I will sit and watch 4 hours of the Justice League.
I don't know. I might force you to sit and watch it with me.
We could do some drinking.
And get heavily drunk.
Yeah, we could do that. That sounds good. I told you the story of when I watched the original Justice League.
No.
Because I had to watch it for like podcasts and all that stuff and like reviews and stuff.
Oh God. Okay.
And it was only an hour 50, so I thought, all right. And I was going through a terrible breakup, so it was anything. Literally anything. So it was already at a bad point. And then the film didn't make it much better. But I was sat next to two bloody children, two little boys, and they just kept talking and talking. And I was short-tempered enough. And the final straw was Gal Gadot coming on, and they were like, Ben Affleck's Batman was like, yeah, she needs to go get the sword or something. And they were like, yeah, I'd get it. Yeah, she'd get it. Yeah. I thought, could you please be quiet? And I snapped at children in a scene with the Justice League.
That's the real way to watch a Zack Snyder film.
I don't know if it's the lowest moment of my life, the best moment. I have no idea.
Was that the only time that you've?
I went to watch Isle of Dogs, and there was a child that didn't talk, but had this gigantic hot dog that smelled terribly. That was bad. There was Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, and it was a full screening, and they were talking for the first like 10 minutes, and I thought, if this continues any longer, because I had the typical thing of you having a vision of what you think is going to happen, and so in my vision, I stood up and went, could you please have some decency and be quiet? People have paid, and people are wanting to watch this film, and if you don't want to watch it, then please leave. And then in my vision, everybody claps. But they ended up stopping talking.
Okay, that's good.
Sorry, I let it slide.
Yeah.
And also, I think my sister would have undermined me by just laughing out loud.
I remember in Avengers Endgame when I watched it the second time with my dad. I think some drunk guy ended up getting kicked out of the theater because he kept on shouting at the theater worker.
God. Cinemas.
Yeah.
But we love them, and we want to be. We're only talking about terrible cinema experiences, but get me in a cinema now.
Yes, please.
Jay, before I started this call, you talked about the absolute abundance of notes that you have on this film. Is this a recent penny dropping moment? What's your relationship with Lost Highway?
Okay, so Lost Highway, the first time I watched it, I adored it. I'd watched it, I think, after Mulholland Drive, and I was like, okay, why do people not enjoy this as much? But then every other time, I enjoyed it less and less, and I watched it 3 times in between this one and the last one. And I've realized why I didn't enjoy it, which I'll say in a sec. But I really loved it when I watched it yesterday again. And I realized it's because I had it on the wrong audio setting.
Go on, what was the audio setting?
So like the Blu-ray I have has like 2 settings. There's like 5.1 audio and then 2.1 something.
Right.
And then I had it on the 5.1 because I was like, oh, higher means better.
I don't know. Go on, inform me of the difference.
I don't know. For some reason, I think it's more like surround sound based.
Right.
And I have a sound bar, which is good. But it's like Dick Laurent is dead.
It's all whispered.
Yeah, it's all whispering except for like the saxophone where it's like so it was like watching a Christopher Nolan film.
Is this like the critic, the New York critic that whose vinyl player wasn't working when he reviewed Sergeant Pepper, and he was the only person in that when Sergeant Pepper came out that was like, this sounds terrible, and he released his review, and then later in life people were like, wait, why was your review that bad? And then they tried to break a vinyl player to hear what it would sound like, and he was like, yeah, that's
probably it.
Yeah, and he was like listening to the songs on the radio, and he was like, they must have changed them. They must have changed the songs.
Like I was like, right, I've had enough of this yesterday during the first 10 minutes. So I changed like the setting on the audio. It was just better. It's just
Well, we're here now.
Yes.
YouTube comments. Let's see what the kids are saying about Lost Highway. And when I say kids, I hope no children are watching Lost Highway. No one takes a risk like this one anymore. This movie was a huge risk, and it is a masterpiece. Saw this on a date with a girl I met at a coffee house near my college when I was 18. I fucking loved it. She thought it was weird. She thought I was weird for even taking her to see it. Classic Lynch. We will never, I mean, you're in a very nice relationship now, so hopefully you don't go on any new dates. But I will never have the joys, Jay, of taking a girl to a first date Lynch.
Well, you don't know.
We don't know. This is true. This is very true. If I am in a significant relationship, by the time that Wisteria comes out, she's either going to she's going to have to hop on board or leave the station, because a great horror that has haunted me for 20 years, one of his very finest films. Very much so. I can't remember, but a particular magazine voted this one of the 30 scariest movies of all time. And I read that fact beforehand, and watching it, I was like, oh yeah, this may be his scariest film. this may be his most hot. I think particularly the first 50. As we continue, it becomes its own thing again. But I think the first 50 you could say is the closest we've ever gotten to a full-blown Lynchian horror film.
Yeah, definitely.
No one knows how many times I've seen this movie, and I haven't completely understood all the scenes. I'm deranged, like the song says.
David Bowie is clapping in heaven right now.
So nice having David Bowie.
I know. I love him.
Best 10-minute stretch, Jack. Let's talk about this film. Before I get into this, actually, for those of you who don't know, and for those of you who have seen the film and don't understand, or whatever, the film is in two halves, very much like Mulholland Drive. When I say two halves, I don't mean two halves. A bit, Bill Pullman, and then, what's his name, Balthazar Getty? The best name in the world.
Yeah.
And we're dealing with different personalities and the ways in which, I mean, we will break it down as we go. But which of the halves works best for you? What when you sit down to rewatch this movie, are you thinking it goes off a cliff, or are you thinking I can't wait for the Balthazar Getty stuff?
I mean, I wouldn't say I think it goes off a cliff. I'd say
that's a bit strong.
I'd say it goes like, I don't know, a bit of a mild down, but not much.
Not much.
No.
But I do agree. I think the Bill Pullman opening 50 is pretty stellar. It's pretty top notch. Oh, my chair.
It's so tightly edited compared to the second half as well, I think.
It's a bit looser. And I feel it's very reductive to talk about it this way, I think. But it does feel a bit like a trial run for Mulholland Drive.
Yeah. That's how I feel a bit about it.
With the sort of, him turning off, he can't stand the sax solo with Jack Nance. Like those sort of little things I feel come into play more cohesively and tighter and more epic.
Yeah, I remember the first time I watched it, I kind of saw it as like a reverse Mulholland Drive, where it starts out with the reality and then goes into fantasy.
So this was written with Barry Gifford, who they'd worked with on a film that we've just talked about, Wild at Heart. This time it's an original piece of writing with them both. And Barry Gifford has commented that he sees it as Double Indemnity meets Orpheus and Parides. What's the one where they go to hell? That Hades town.
Orpheus and is it Eurydice?
That sounds about right.
Eurydice? Yeah.
Something Greek. And that really made this rewatch work for me, was the thing of going, okay, this is Double Indemnity through the lens of pure hell. And it really is that I very much enjoyed that angle of it.
Here I am.
Best 10-minute stretch, John. What are your nominations?
God. I'd say maybe the opening 10, the 10 where he meets where he's crap. Where does that scene start?
The party.
Yeah, the party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then coming home. Well, no,
Yeah.
slipping to Andy, but Dick Laurent was dead. And the anxiety of that, yeah.
So I'd say him meeting the man, I don't know if it's 10 minutes exactly, but him meeting the man up until, because that's really where Fred switches for me. He meets the man and then he goes back and thinks someone's in the house. And then it leads into her murder.
So abruptly, so painfully. I'm sorry, we're talking a lot about context before we actually get into the film. But the other big thing for Lynch and Barry and Gifford was the Oj Simpson trial. And Lynch has commented how he personally believes, I think as anybody who looks at the evidence believes, that Oj did kill those two people, did kill Nicole Brown Simpson and Goldman. And he was basically talking with Gifford about how whether obviously I think he's taken the premise and moved it into the world of surrealism and psychological nature, because I think with Oj he's just trying to get off. But Lynch's angle was, how do you convince yourself that you didn't kill people, and how can you get away with that in your own mind? And again, through that lens, it's just a whole new beast. It's not just bizarre dream sequences, it's an intentional distortion.
Yes.
I mean, the line, I guess, that colors it all is talking about the video cameras, and I don't want to remember it as it. Sorry, I want.
I like to remember
there we go.
my own way, how I remembered them, not necessarily the way they happened.
Yeah. I mean, don't we all want that?
Yeah.
However, reality constantly gets in the way of that, and Fred Madison, played by Bill Pullman, just removes that element out of the equation. Jay, you talked before this call about a litany of notes. Why don't you just throw it to the wind? Give us a couple of notes, so we'll start discussing this film.
Obviously, it starts and ends with Dick Laurent is dead. Yeah, which obviously you don't know who Dick Laurent is until later on.
No.
Before you find out, he's just Mr. Eddie who hates tailgating.
Yep. The wonderful Robert Loggia.
Yeah. I took a note about the red phone because he likes having coloured phones.
Is that's one of the 10 secrets to unlocking Mulholland Drive, isn't it?
Yeah. It's like every time someone answers.
Notice every time they use the phone.
Yeah.
Which we will get to next week. I really want to break those down. If they mean anything.
And then I took a kind of like interpretation down. So I was like, you know how Fred has that fear of cameras?
Yeah.
And stuff. I interpreted that as, for him, Fred / Pete / whoever his whole character actually is. I took that as him hating, obviously, Renee, her career as a porn actress, hating the fact that that's so public when he thinks she belongs to her, which is why why his house keeps getting invaded by this camera.
Keeps getting invaded by the camera, and also bringing the OJ element into it. It's that whole thing of the privacy of murder and all these very, very intimate things that have gone past us for years and years. Is suddenly national news, and it's a reality show, and it's all there. And what is porn but a camera on the most intimate moments of our lives, marketed and mass produced for everybody to get off and everybody to make some money. And obviously there are ethical ways to do it and there are unethical ways to do it, as this film sort of leans into. It's a very more perverted and unsettling look at the pornography world.
And in that I also put that obviously their first sex scene. Is it demasculated or emasculated when
Emasculated. Yeah.
emasculated? Yeah, when she's patting him on the back and going, "It's okay,
It's
it's
okay.
okay."
It's okay.
Yeah.
And that's in slow motion as well. So I don't think he even lasted 30 seconds.
No, maybe two.
Maybe two. And they had to slow it down.
And then not long after that, he talks about his dream and he says to her that it looked like you, but it wasn't you. You were in our bed. Right, I think I put that in the wrong order. But it says you were on our bed, it looked like you, but it wasn't you. And for me, that is him talking about the fact that if in my interpretation, she is a porn actress in real life.
Yeah.
That she obviously would have sex with other men, and
Have
it's
great sex, presumably.
Yeah, and
or
then,
at least filmed great sex.
Yeah, so obviously for him, he doesn't see the her that he used to have sex with, that where it was more of a moment between them. He just sees like her acting face in a way.
Yeah. And then that brings us sort of into the female sexuality element of Mulholland Drive, because I don't know if you knew this, Jay, but there is a big phenomena, rather famously amongst women, about performance and faking a certain element.
I did know this, yes.
I don't believe it's true. Women never fake.
No!
Oh my God, women! Which brings us into that. And also it's that head-on collision with old Hollywood that's present in all of Lynch, because one of the most horrible moments, one of the most horrifying lines, like true life comments, is Rita Hayworth when she's talking about how men would go to bed with Gilda, you know, her famous, most incredible sex role. It's the hair flip from Shawshank Redemption, one of the most iconic moments of cinema history ever. And then they'd go to bed with Gilda and wake up with me. And it's just that horrible thing of recently I just saw the jokes that people were putting, but like there's a porn star who's got married, and it's like you feel like they own a part of you because you're given, in Rita Hayworth's case, this iconic, at that point, it was considered pornographic, some of the shoulder stuff, and the way that her character was sexualized so iconically in that film. You've given that to the world, and people think that they own that. And Fred's dealing with the emasculation of, by all accounts, for our audio listeners, I'm doing huge speech marks or whatever, but by all accounts, as her husband, he should own that. In reality, he should own that private part and that public part, but he has nothing. And obviously, she's very close to this Andy character. They're close, whether it's very close there. And and there we go, for Fred.
Yeah, and you find out more about Andy later on.
Sure do.
I also put the most David Lynch detectives ever.
The only thing they were missing was finding out a significant piece of evidence and then throwing it in the trash.
Yeah. Oh no! Don't remind me. Some FBI agent.
We've met before, haven't we?
I don't think so. Where was it you think we met?
At your house, don't you remember?
No, I don't. Are you sure?
Of course. As a matter of fact, I'm there right now.
What do you mean you're where right now?
At your house.
That's fucking crazy, man.
call me.
Or is it
We're going to go back to these notes and these interpretations, but we're going to go back to the categories, as we like to call them.
Yeah.
Tom's Wheeler's specific favorite part of the film. I love Bill Pullman's jazz solo. And I like the other time that we get that jazz solo, but without the music. And it's such a violent cut in. And it's muted, so it's stark and it's harsh and it's brutal. The pool party where most people are naked and just floating around on lilos, so it's like a swell old time. The two prison guards, the wife murderer doesn't look great. Which one?
Which one?
Yeah, and again that sort of OJ sensibility of when we make this reality TV. There's one every other day. A guy who kills his wife, and famously, most murders of women are by the boyfriend or husband or partner. It's one of those things. And just another great visual gag of the putting the seatbelts on in the tailgating sequence because they know what's coming. Jay, your weirdly specific, your little parts of the film that really get it.
Well, the tailgate scene for
Well, iconic.
when I watched that, I was crying. Where he's just yelling at the guy. It's really Lynch, clearly ranting about tailgates.
So that's a true Lynch story. Well, no, not a true Lynch story, but it's a very much in the style of me at Justice League. Lynch fulfilling something that he couldn't do was that he was tailgate. He did let somebody pass that was tailgating them, and the guy he just let them go. And then Michael Janderson, who people may know as the dwarf from Twin Peaks, he was relaying this story that Lynch had told him, and he said, I'm not a nice man. I wanted to do something, but I couldn't. But I didn't have the time.
Whereas in the film, Mr. Eddie's just
wailing on the guy.
Just study that motherfucker.
And I love how specific he knows all of the statistics on vehicular accidents.
Such a Lynch touch to know the exact statistics of the previous year.
Which leads us into Soundtrack Corner. Now, this was one of the biggest this was like one of the legitimately biggest selling albums of the year. People loved this album. Say it again?
That doesn't surprise me.
No, it's pretty fucking cool. So we've touched on David Bowie with I'm Deranged, which opens and closes the movie with that, well, almost the climax of that shot, which Lynch uses an awful lot in most of his movies. It's in Blue Velvet, lots in Wild at Heart, it's in even in Twin Peaks Fire Walk With Me, and this feels like the ultimate climax of. I feel like he wants to shoot that yellow line down the road just for all eternity.
You feel like he wants to film an hour of people sitting in a car.
It's almost like
and going to a house.
It's almost like if he had enough studio clout and money behind it, that's what he would do to tease and tantalize. But we also have a great Angelo Badalamenti score again. Playing with themes of jazz as the film continues, but earlier on, synths and just darker material again. What are your favourite musical moments in this film, John?
When it played this magic moment when Pete met Alice. I thought it was pretty nice.
For our video listeners, the mysterious man has not entered into Jay's room. It is Jay's wonderful partner, Olivia. Olivia, do you have 5 seconds on Lynch? What's your favourite Lynch movie?
She hasn't seen any.
I haven't seen any. What I've seen, I've just been like, I don't know, a bit scared, to be honest.
I don't blame you. the very scary stuff.
Yeah.
Olivia, are you in the room?
Yes. Okay, right. Let's carry on.
It's been gifted. We've done a gift drop.
Yeah.
Your favorite moments musically in this film?
Rammstein.
Rammstein.
That scene fucks.
Yes.
Yeah.
It does.
Um.
And the kids love saying this, don't they?
Yes.
Yes, Rammstein by Rammstein.
Yeah.
Another great Something Wicked This Way Comes.
Mm-hmm.
Marvelous. Lots of Marilyn Manson on this. Obviously not a not a wonderful, pretty abysmal person, but a very great musical artist, and their music is sensational in this.
And he's in the film.
Yes, indeed.
In the porn.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
But for me, it has to be Bowie. I have to give all credit to Monsieur David Bowie. Monsieur David Bowie.
Yeah.
It's time for the Oscar travesty. It's a tough one, as I've commented before. It's a tough one, putting it into an Oscar context. Sometimes with Lynch. However, I do feel that there is the significant chance. I mean, we say this every time. Editing and cinematography. The fact that they're not locks.
Oh.
The fact that Fly Away from Home. Oh, which actually is shot by Caleb Deschanel, the Twin Peaks cinematographer, for a lot of episodes. So not Caleb Deschanel's best work. However, I do famously love. I'm quite happy with the Oscars this year, I have to say, because I do love The English Patient.
Yeah, I love Fargo.
Oh, Fargo's pretty great too. Jerry Maguire, good year. Secrets and Lies, great year for the Oscars.
Romeo and Juliet.
Well, it's okay.
Yeah, I know.
However, I think we could make a shout for Robert Loggia, unless we find out that, which we are going to find out. Every time I think it's going to be like a lock to put somebody in, I find out that it was a really good year. However, I think we can get rid of James Woods in Ghost of Mississippi. A fine film, but we can get rid of them. I'm happy with Cuba winning. However, it's probably Edward Norton.
Yeah.
I can get Robert.
Is Cuba Gooding Jr. a good actor?
Yes.
Okay. Because I've only seen him in American Horror Story, and he was not good.
No, he was terrible in that. He's great in Jerry Maguire. I love black people.
And playing OJ in
And
American.
playing OJ, yeah. Loved him in OJ. I loved everything in OJ. I famously, do you want to know my OJ story, Jay?
Mm-hmm.
So People versus Oj Simpson was great. Great show. However, the 9-hour documentary OJ Made in America
It came out the same year, right?
It came out the same year as everybody had OJ fever. So it was the thing of, depending on which one you've seen first, you'd think that the other one was bad. I sort of saw them both at the same time. And so I do have to say that the film is infinitely better. Not infinitely. No, I think it's one of the best films of the decade. So I guess there's that.
Yeah.
But so we were on holiday, a big family friends holiday. And so I had downloaded OJ Made in America for nine hours. So sort of so around like 4 o'clock or whatever. And I think I was 14 at the time or whatever. Or maybe I was more than 14. I can't remember. I was in let's say a pubescent age, which will become privy to the story later.
Okay.
Was that I was so sort of around 4 o'clock or whatever. I was tired of swimming, and so I'd go up and watch 2 hours of OJ. And it was obviously just incredibly interesting. And I didn't want to just watch 2 hours. I could have sat there all night. And it eventually came to my attention that my mother's family friends and all of the family thought that was my wanking time. And so then for 6 years in our family friendship circle, wanking and sex is basically called watching OJ. Have you been watching OJ? have you watched OJ Simpson? When I had a girlfriend for the first time, and people were wondering whether we'd been intimate, it was, have you shown her OJ yet? And
That's great.
so nobody can mention OJ Simpson around my family friendship group without a message. Perfect for this Lost Highway episode. I'm glad it's here. We move on to best single minute. I think the transformation. I think just knockout, perfect Lynchian montage, bizarre imagery.
Yeah.
Shocking as all hell, scary as all hell, brilliant.
Of course, the mystery man scene.
Yes, that we discussed. Yes,
Yeah.
terrifying, unsettling.
I'd say the last sex scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, at the cabin.
Yeah, that's interesting too. I think, however, you could make the argument if we were going to rank the top 5 scenes in Lynch movies, then the mystery man scene would be in there.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's iconic. I think among Lost Highway in the Lynchian canon is an underrated work, is a less viewed work, a more obtuse work, some might say. Because people, even as much as people said that Mulholland Drive doesn't make sense, there was the great, I think it was Whoopi Goldberg joke at the Oscars that year, and she was talking about a really long movie, like a really long documentary, and she was like, still not as long as it took David Lynch to explain Mulholland Drive, and like that was the big Oscar joke, and he actually laughed. He could clearly, because you know what people don't talk about enough is that he's a great sense of humor. He knows that people don't understand his movies, and he knows that people get frustrated. It's wonderful, and he laughed at Whoopi. But that Oscar race we will talk about next episode, because that's a very, very interesting Oscar race I'm very interested in, because I think that was his closest chance to winning an Oscar, and
probably,
and it's really interesting, which we'll get to. Best line.
That's a Captain. This is some spooky shit we got here. Fucker gets more pussy than a toilet seat.
That is great. That's right. That was going to be mine. That was it's great, funny one-liner. Do you on a video camera? No, Fred hates them. I like to remember things my own way. I think, again, we talked about this earlier on. Don't tailgate, don't you fucking ever tailgate. Do you know how much space is needed to stop a car traveling at 35 miles per hour? 6 car lengths. 6 car lengths. That's my favorite part, is 6 car lengths.
There was the wife killer joke.
I want you, you'll never have me.
Yeah. Damn it.
Oh, did I beat you to it?
Yeah.
Well, you took Hooker Gets More Pussy Than Toilet Seat, so it's only fair. And this is where mechanical excellence and 1,400 horsepower pays off.
And then there's also,
take it away.
At the very end, when I just found this funny, when a scary man is holding the camera and he's like, her name is Renee, and your name, what the fuck is your name?
Great profanity. People talk about Tarantino. When people talk about the best directors and writers that use profanity, it's that classic thing of they immediately jump to
Scorsese.
The most profanity. People, they go to the most profanity. And Scorsese and Tarantino, very, very, very good choices. Yeah. However, there is something about the Lynchian F-bomb that
Oh yeah.
works a treat every single time.
Yeah.
Let's
We're
move
in
on.
a fucking morgue.
Let's move on to a more negative moment. What's the change? Is there something? I'm not a big fan of the mysterious man's face being superimposed onto Renee's.
Yeah.
I think it's quick enough and it's brutal enough, but I think it's just funny, and I don't think it should be funny.
Yeah. Yeah. What would I change? I'd say maybe. I don't know. And maybe the bit with the photo of Alice and Renee with each other. I feel like they could have that just adds even more confusion because they are ultimately the same person, not two separate people.
This is true.
Yeah, I like it. Just that photo for me isn't needed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can see that. Yeah, that's true.
And that's it for me. I don't really have any changes. I really like the film.
It's a great film. What's left from my notes? Not very much, but what's left from your notes? You have talked about these notes. Let's hear some more of them.
It says Balthazar Getty has a very feminine back.
He does have a very feminine back. Did you think it was her as well?
Yeah,
I thought it was her as well. Yeah.
I think every time I've watched it, I keep on thinking it's her. I just keep on forgetting about that. I was like, "Ooh, what back?"
I mean, we talked about the payoff of that with the line, "Fucker gets more pussy than a toilet seat." But I love the detectives that are tailing him and that have to keep watching him having sex. Just a very, very funny thing.
And they're like, "What a job!" And the other guy's like, "His or ours." I said, "Oh, so there's a shot of the curtains in the room that he literally does the same exact type of shot to open Twin Peaks: The Return.
It does.
The sweeping of the curtains into, yeah.
And yes, the curtains. I mean, it's again, it's quite obvious imagery, but it works very, very well. Of what are curtains? They cover up the thing so people can't look inside. We are getting a glimpse behind the curtain. It's that classic Wizard of Oz thing. And obviously we get it in the opening of Blue Velvet as well, with blue velvet curtains. Great stuff. Wonderful. Anything else from these aforementioned notes?
Yes. So, okay. Can we get into Pete a little bit?
Yeah, get into it. Yeah.
I put him as like the male fantasy. It's a bit like much, but like, the cool rogue who gets lots of girls as opposed to Fred, who's just obsessed with Renee. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that. It's
he's young, handsome, kind of cool. Has this side job with a mob boss.
I love because obviously we get it with Betty as well. I love that these are the two ideals that Lynch has, is that they are this perfect actress who's going into Hollywood, and then there's cool guy with the slick back jacket. And it goes back to those old Hollywood things. It's Brando, it's the Wild One, it's all these things.
Grease.
It's Grease, yeah.
Grease.
Tell me about it, Stir.
And then I don't really have much of a notes except a line delivery that when the security guard looks through the hole and looks through the hole and sees it's not Fred and just goes, "Fuck me."
Good, very good.
And that's it. That's all the notes I've got.
And that's all the notes I have, which leads us, I do believe, into I've done over 100 of these episodes, Jay, and I still forget. Which leads us into alternate ended corner. There isn't one, but there are a few fun facts. Which we have here. Robert Loggia was the first and only choice to play the character of Mr. Eddie because of his former desire to play Frank Booth in Blue Velvet. In 1985, Loggia showed up for an audition on the set of Blue Velvet, unaware that Hopper had already been cast, and proceeded to wait for 3 hours, growing increasingly agitated. Upon seeing Lynch and learning of Hopper's casting, Loggia proceeded to give an extremely profane and angry rant to Lynch for making him wait, only to remind him that the role had already been cast, which remained in Lynch's head for nearly 10 years as what would have eventually become Mr. Eddie's road rage scene. Nearly 10 years later, Loggia received a phone call from Lynch requesting his performance for this movie. Loggia was more than happy to accept.
That's nice then.
It is nice.
Yeah.
According to David Lynch, the first scene in the film is based upon a real-life incident which occurred in his own life. He says that early one morning, his intercom buzzed, and when he answered it, a voice he didn't recognize said, "David, Dick Laurent is dead."
Okay.
And then he looked to the window and nobody was there. In real life, his next door neighbor was also called David. And it was, like it's very clear that they meant the other David and they were embarrassed. However, screenwriter, people struggling, people with story block or whatever, imagine just getting that. And that's just gold stuff. Gene Siskel and Roger Ebert gave the film a massively negative review on their show. And David Lynch issued a new poster calling the thumbs down verdict 2 more reasons to see Lost Highway. Do you know what Siskel's response was?
What?
I found it petty.
Right, okay.
It's just one of those things, isn't it? Very funny marketing. Do you think people would go see that because of that review? I don't know.
Maybe. I mean, there's people who went to see Cats.
This is true. But Cats, people were going into knowing it'd be so bad it's good. Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe. I think people have some fascination with disgusting, ugly, violent films. Even though I don't really see it as the most, like, I'd say Firewalk with Me is more ugly, you could say.
And it's also more beautiful.
Yeah.
One of those things. Fun facts still, we're dealing with these. David, we've talked about OJ. There is, of course, the bizarre, some say curious, I say tragic element that Robert Blake, who played the mystery man, went on to murder his own wife.
Yeah.
One of those bizarre things. Creepy, horrible. I think that's all that needs to be said about that. Bill Pullman is really playing the saxophone. He didn't know how to play before, but he did learn that one particular solo.
Oh, wow.
Robert Loggia kept forgetting his choreographed moves in his big fight scene with Bill Pullman, resulting in Pullman repeatedly and accidentally hitting him. And this was Richard Pryor's last movie. He was the notable slurred speech is from his MS that had been struggling with for decades, and that obviously eventually took his life. A serious effect of the heavy drug use and alcohol use. But he's very good in this film. He's, for the limited bit he's in, and I'm surprised on all accounts. Actually, I don't see. Would Lynch be a massive Richard Pryor fan? And I don't know. Say it again.
Was this Jack Nance's last film or not?
Maybe.
I'm going to check.
It's not in Mulholland. Or is it?
It's his last film. Yeah, it's. I'm pretty sure it is his last film.
That's upsetting.
Unless
Tagline.
you're missing pieces.
Tagline rundown. A lost road on the edge of strange. Fair enough.
Okay.
Tom's big question. Tom's big questions, rather. Is this the best sax solo in a movie? Here are our 3 nominations. This, The Lost Boys, or Rob Lowe in St. Elmo's Fire.
This is the only one I've seen out of those 3.
Jay, you disappoint me.
Ducks.
I'm going to say Lost Boys because that spurred an entire. You know this. You know the sweaty guy playing the sax with the long hair meme and gif.
No.
Okay. That's the guy from the Lost Boys.
Okay.
And we've touched on whether this is Lynch's scariest movie. Jay, next episode, I think we're both very excited.
Of course.
One of our favorite films, both of our favorite films, a seminal piece of iconic cinema, immediately iconic, immediately seminal. Fucking love it. Mulholland Drive.
Yeah.
Can't wait. Jay, I'll see you then. Jay,
See you.
I'm in your room.
Dabba 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 da da ba 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 ba.